The phone call came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was folding laundry when my mother's voice cut through the speaker, casual as discussing the weather. "Don't come for Christmas this year, Amberly." Before I could respond, my brother Derek grabbed the phone. "If you show up anyway, we'll pretend we don't know you. Like you're a stranger." The line went dead. I stood there, a towel clutched in my hands, staring at my phone. They'd just erased me from the family. And they'd said it like it was nothing. My hands were shaking as I tried calling back. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail. I sent a text to my mother. No response. I called my father's cell. Nothing. I sat down on my couch, trying to make sense of what just happened. 3 weeks before Christmas, and my family had just uninvited me. Not with sadness or hesitation. With complete indifference. I thought back over the past 6 months, trying to understand where this came from. I'd been dating Patrick, a high school teacher I'd met at a bookstore. He was kind, thoughtful, and made me laugh. But my family hated him from the moment I introduced them. He was divorced. He taught English instead of working in finance or medicine. He drove a 10-year-old sedan and lived in a modest apartment. My mother had pulled me aside after that first family dinner. "Is this really the best you can do, Amberly? You're 32 years old. You should be thinking about your future." I'd told her I was thinking about my future. Patrick made me happy. That should matter. She'd pursed her lips. Happiness isn't everything. Stability is what matters. Security. But Patrick was stable. He had a good job, a retirement plan, health insurance. He just wasn't wealthy. And that was the real problem. My brother Derek had married a woman whose father owned a chain of car dealerships. He worked in finance, pulled in a 6-figure salary, had 2 kids and a house in the suburbs with a 3-car garage. I'd always been compared to him. Why can't you be more ambitious like your brother? Why can't you find someone with Derek's drive? I'd learned to tune it out, but lately the pressure had intensified. My mother had started sending me profiles from dating apps. Successful men, Amberly, men with potential. I'd ignored them. Then she'd started calling Patrick unsuitable and suggesting I was wasting my best years. 2 months ago, she'd given me an ultimatum over Sunday brunch. "It's him or us, Amberly. If you continue this relationship, you're making a choice." I'd thought she was being dramatic. I'd told her I was an adult and could make my own decisions. She'd gone silent for the rest of the meal, but I never thought it would come to this. I grabbed my phone and texted my younger sister Callie. "What's going on? Why did Mom just uninvite me to Christmas?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, her response came through. "You made your choice. Now we've made ours." My stomach dropped. Even Callie was in on this? I tried calling her. She didn't pick up. I sent another text. "Callie, please, talk to me. What's happening?" No response. I tried my father again. This time, he answered. "Dad, what's going on? Why did Mom just tell me not to come for Christmas?" There was a long pause. I could hear the television in the background. "Your mother thinks it's best this way, Amberly. You've been very selfish lately. We need a peaceful Christmas." Selfish? Dad, I haven't done anything. I just refused to break up with my boyfriend because Mom demanded it. You're 32 years old and dating a divorced teacher with no prospects. Your mother and I raised you better than that. We're disappointed in the choices you're making. So you're punishing me? We're setting boundaries. If you can't respect this family's values, then maybe you need some time to think about what's important. The line went dead. I sat there, phone in my lap, feeling like I'd fallen into an alternate reality. My family was cutting me off because I wouldn't dump my boyfriend, because I'd chosen my own happiness over their approval. Over the next few days, things got worse. My aunt texted me. "Your mother told us you've been having some problems. We hope you get the help you need. We're praying for you." Problems? What problems? I called her. "Aunt Susan, what did my mother tell you?" She sounded uncomfortable. "Well, honey," she said, "you've been struggling. Mentally. That you've been lashing out at the family and saying some concerning things. She thought it was best if you took some time away from family events until you're feeling better." My blood went cold. "I'm not struggling with anything. I'm perfectly fine. My mother is lying to you." "Oh, Amberly, Denial is part of the process. We just want you to get help. She hung up before I could defend myself. I checked Facebook. My cousin had posted photos from a family gathering over the weekend. One I hadn't been invited to. Everyone was smiling, arms around each other. The caption read, "Family is everything. Blessed to have these people in my life." I hadn't even known there was a gathering. I tried messaging my cousin. She read it but didn't respond. Then I noticed she'd blocked me. I felt like I was losing my mind. My family wasn't just excluding me. They were telling everyone I was unstable. They were rewriting the narrative, making me the problem, the troubled one who needed to be kept at arm's length. Patrick came over that evening. I told him everything. He listened, but I could see doubt creeping into his eyes. "Are you sure you didn't do anything to upset them?" he asked carefully. I stared at him. "You think this is my fault?" "I'm just saying, families don't usually cut someone off for no reason. Maybe there's something you're not seeing." I felt a crack forming between us. Even my boyfriend was questioning me. The weeks crawled by. Thanksgiving came and went. Patrick went to visit his own family in Ohio. I spent the day alone in my apartment, eating a frozen dinner and watching old movies. I cried myself to sleep that night, feeling more abandoned than I'd ever felt in my life. December arrived with gray skies and bitter cold. I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself from the gaping hole where my family used to be. I worked as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized advertising firm downtown. It wasn't glamorous, but I was good at it. My performance reviews had always been excellent, until they weren't. On a Thursday morning, my boss called me into his office. Mr. Hartman was usually friendly, but today his expression was grave. "Amberly, sit down. We need to talk." I sat, my heart already pounding. Something was wrong. "I've received some concerning information," he began, not meeting my eyes. "About your performance and reliability." "My performance?" "Mr. Hartman? My last review was outstanding." "I don't understand." He shifted uncomfortably. "Someone reached out to us. A family member of yours. They expressed concerns about your mental stability and whether you're able to handle your responsibilities here." The room tilted. My family had contacted my employer? "Who called you?" I demanded. "I can't disclose that." "But they seemed genuinely worried about you. They mentioned you've been struggling, that you might be experiencing some kind of breakdown." "That's not true." "None of that is true. My family is lying because I wouldn't do what they wanted." He looked skeptical. "Amberly, I want to believe you. But combined with some recent issues we've noticed." "What issues?" "I haven't had any issues. You've seemed distracted lately." "Your work has been." "Well, it hasn't been up to your usual standards, because my entire family just disowned me. I'm going through something difficult, but I'm still doing my job." He sighed. "Look, we think it's best if we part ways. We'll call it a mutual separation. You'll get 2 weeks severance." "You're firing me? Because my family called and lied about me?" "We're making a business decision based on concerns about your reliability." "I'm sorry, Amberly. Security will escort you out. You can collect your things." I sat frozen, unable to process what was happening. This couldn't be real, but it was. 20 minutes later, I was standing on the sidewalk in the cold, clutching a cardboard box with my desk belongings. A coffee mug. A few framed photos. A plant that was already dying. My family hadn't just cut me off. They'd sabotaged my career. I went home and collapsed on my couch. I couldn't stop shaking. This was beyond cruel. This was calculated destruction. The next 2 weeks blurred together. I applied for jobs, but the market was slow in December. My savings started dwindling. Rent was due, my car insurance, my student loan payment. Patrick came over less and less. When he did visit, he seemed distant. Finally, one evening, he said what I'd been dreading. "Amberly, I care about you. But this is too much. The drama with your family, you losing your job, all of this chaos. I can't handle it. I need stability in my life." "So you're breaking up with me?" He couldn't look at me. "I think it's for the best." After he left, I didn't cry. I was too numb. I'd lost my family, my job, and now my relationship. Everything had crumbled in less than 2 months. Christmas Eve arrived. I sat alone in my apartment with cheap Chinese takeout, watching the lights blink on the small tree I'd bought from the drugstore. It was pathetic and scraggly, but it was all I could afford. I thought about my family, probably gathered at my parents' house right now, opening presents, drinking wine, laughing, pretending I didn't exist. I wondered if they ever thought about me, if they felt any guilt, or if they'd simply erased me completely, like I was never part of them at all. I spent Christmas Day in my pajamas, not bothering to shower or eat. What was the point? I had no one, nothing. My life had become a dark, empty space. I started thinking about leaving. Maybe I could move to another state, start over somewhere no one knew me, change my name, become someone else. The days after Christmas were worse. I had job interviews that went nowhere. My savings account hit double digits. I was going to have to break my lease and move into a cheaper place, maybe find a roommate on Craigslist. On December 27th, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Amberly Crawford? The voice was professional, male, unfamiliar. Yes, this is she. My name is Richard Franklin. I'm an attorney with Franklin and Associates. I'm calling regarding the estate of Dorothy Crawford. Everything stopped. Dorothy Crawford, my grandmother. My father's mother had lived in a nursing home for the past 3 years. I'd visited her every week without fail. We'd have lunch in the common room, and I'd tell her about my life. She'd tell me stories about when she was young. She was sharp as a tack, funny, and kind. I hadn't heard from her in weeks. Not since my family cut me off. Is she okay? I asked, though I already knew from his tone that she wasn't. I'm very sorry to inform you that Mrs. Crawford passed away 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. Right when my mother called to uninvite me to Christmas. Nobody told me, I whispered. I didn't know. I couldn't go to the funeral. I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Franklin said gently. Unfortunately, I was informed you were unavailable and unwell when I initially tried to contact the family. My family told you I was unavailable? Yes, but I was able to track you down through your former employer's contact information. Former. Right. Because they'd gotten me fired. Why are you calling me? I asked. Because you're named as the primary beneficiary in your grandmother's will. I couldn't have heard that correctly. What? Your grandmother left her entire estate to you, Miss Crawford. The house, the property, all investments and savings accounts, everything. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. The room spun around me. Miss Crawford, are you still there? Yes, I'm here. I don't understand. My father, my brother, surely they would inherit? No. Your grandmother was very clear. She left everything to you. Her will was updated 8 months ago, and she was of completely sound mind. I have all the documentation. How much? The question came out as barely a whisper. The estate is valued at approximately $3.2 million. That includes the family home, which is fully paid off, as well as various investment accounts and savings. $3.2 million. I sat down hard on my couch, the phone pressed to my ear, trying to process the number he'd just said. Miss Crawford? I know this is a lot to take in. Why me? I managed to ask. Your grandmother left a letter for you. I think it will explain everything. Would you be able to come to my office tomorrow to discuss the details? I agreed in a daze. He gave me the address and a time. After we hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. My grandmother had left me everything. $3.2 million. The house I'd played in as a child. Everything. And my family had known she was dying. They'd known, and they'd deliberately kept it from me. They'd made sure I couldn't see her one last time, couldn't attend her funeral. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Amberly, honey, we need to talk. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. Then my father. Please call us immediately. This is about Grandma Dorothy's estate. Derek, we need to discuss the will as a family. Don't make any decisions without us. Even Callie. I miss you so much. Can we please talk? I stared at the messages flooding in. They knew. The lawyer must have told them I was the beneficiary. And now, suddenly, after 2 months of silence and cruelty, they wanted to talk. I didn't respond to any of them. The next morning, I met Mr. Franklin at his office. He was in his 60s, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. He led me to a conference room with a thick file on the table. First, he showed me the will. It was straightforward. Dorothy May Crawford, being of sound mind and body, leaves her entire estate to her granddaughter, Amberly Jean Crawford. Then he handed me a letter. The envelope was cream-colored, and my name was written in my grandmother's shaky handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. My dearest Amberly, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't say goodbye in person, but I wanted to make sure you understood why I made this decision. You were the only one who visited me, sweetheart. Every week, like clockwork, you'd come to that depressing nursing home and bring sunshine into my day. You asked about my life. You cared about my stories. You saw me as a person, not just an old lady taking up space. Your father came twice a year, always in a hurry. Derek came once, looked uncomfortable the whole time, and never returned. Callie sent a card on my birthday. Your mother never came at all, but you came every week, even when you had a cold, even when you were tired from work. You came because you loved me, not because you wanted something from me. I've watched how your family treats you, Amberly. I've seen how they criticize you, how nothing you do is ever good enough for them. I've seen how they compare you to Derek, as if making money is the only measure of a person's worth. You have a good heart. You're kind, thoughtful, and genuine. Those qualities are worth more than all of Derek's stock portfolios combined. I want you to have security. I want you to have freedom. I want you to build a life on your own terms, without constantly trying to earn approval from people who will never give it. This money is yours. The house is yours. Do whatever you want with it. But please, don't let your family bully you into giving them anything. They don't deserve it. They didn't earn it. And they certainly didn't love me the way you did. I love you, sweetheart. I'm proud of you. And I hope this gift allows you to truly live. All my love, Grandma Dorothy, I cried reading it. Great, heaving sobs that I couldn't control. Mr. Franklin quietly handed me a box of tissues and waited. When I finally composed myself, he explained the next steps. The will was clear and properly executed. My grandmother had been evaluated by her doctor just weeks before she died, and there was documented proof of her mental competence. However, he warned me, your family has already contacted me multiple times. They're claiming there must be a mistake. I expect they'll contest the will. Can they do that? They can try. But your grandmother was very thorough. She knew they might fight this, so she made sure everything was documented properly. Over the next week, my family's messages turned from sweet to poisonous. My mother, you manipulated a sick old woman. You should be ashamed of yourself. Derek, that money belongs to the family. You have no right to keep it all. My father, if you had any decency, you'd share it with your siblings and parents. This is what tears families apart. I blocked all their numbers, but blocking them didn't stop them from showing up. On a Tuesday evening, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw my mother standing in the hallway, dressed in her expensive wool coat, holding a purse that cost more than my monthly rent. Amberly, sweetheart, I know you're in there. Please, let's talk about this like adults. I didn't open the door. Go away, Mom. Her voice changed, turned hard. You ungrateful little brat. After everything we did for you? We raised you? Put you through college? And this is how you repay us? By stealing from your own family? I didn't steal anything. Grandma left it to me because I actually cared about her. She was an old woman who didn't know what she was doing. She knew exactly what she was doing. Now leave, or I'm calling building security. She finally left, but not before hissing through the door. You're going to regret this. 2 days later, Derek showed up. With my father, they pounded on the door. Amberly, open this door right now. We need to talk. I called down to the front desk. There are people harassing me. Can you send security? Derek's voice rose. You're going to regret this, Amberly. We're going to make your life hell. We'll contest that will. We'll prove Grandma wasn't in her right mind, my father added. Your grandmother had dementia. Everyone knows it. This will never hold up in court. Security arrived and asked them to leave. Derek shoved one of the guards. The guard called the police. I watched from my window as patrol cars pulled up, as Derek argued with the officers, as my father tried to smooth things over. I went to the police station the next day and filed for a restraining order against both of them. My family was now painting me as the villain. On social media, my mother posted about how family betrayal was the deepest pain. Derek posted about greedy people who take advantage of the elderly. They never mentioned my name, but everyone knew who they were talking about. Extended family members started choosing sides. Most of them believed my parents' version. I was the ungrateful granddaughter who'd manipulated a dying woman. Only a few people reached out to me privately, saying they didn't believe it. That they knew I'd been the one who visited Dorothy faithfully. But they wouldn't say it publicly. They didn't want to be cut off, too. The restraining order was approved. Derek and my father couldn't come within 500 feet of me. It should have felt like a victory. But it just felt sad. Then the lawsuit came. A process server showed up at my door with a thick stack of papers. My family was officially contesting the will. They claimed Dorothy had suffered from dementia and had been unduly influenced by me. I hired an attorney. Patricia Mendez came highly recommended for estate litigation. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, and didn't waste words. "This is going to be expensive and ugly," she told me in our first meeting. "Your family is claiming your grandmother wasn't mentally competent. They've submitted medical records suggesting cognitive decline, but she was fine. I saw her every week. She was completely lucid. I believe you. But we need to prove it, and we need to be prepared for them to throw everything they can at us." The legal process was brutal. Every week brought new motions, new demands, new accusations. My family's lawyer was aggressive, filing paperwork that required responses, depositions, document production. I had to provide years of phone records, emails, photos. Anything proving my relationship with Dorothy was genuine and not manipulative. My family provided their evidence. Medical records showing Dorothy had scored lower on cognitive tests. Notes from nurses about confusion. Documentation of memory lapses. I was devastated looking at the records. Had my grandmother been declining and I hadn't noticed? Patricia hired a private investigator to look into the medical records. "Something doesn't add up," she said. "These tests were supposedly done 6 months ago, but I don't see them mentioned in any of her regular doctor visits." The legal fees were mounting. The inheritance was frozen during litigation, which meant I couldn't access any of it. I was living off the last of my savings, which were nearly gone. I had to find work. Fast. I took a job waiting tables at a chain restaurant. It was humiliating, going from a marketing coordinator to serving burgers and fries. But I needed to eat. I needed to pay rent, and I needed to pay Patricia. The deposition was scheduled for a cold January morning. I sat in a conference room, facing my family's lawyer. He was a man in his 40s with slicked back hair and an expensive suit. "Miss Crawford," he began, "how often did you visit your grandmother?" "Once a week, every Sunday." "And what did you discuss during these visits?" "Her life, my life, books, movies, current events, whatever she wanted to talk about." "Did you ever discuss her finances?" "No. She never brought it up." "Never? Not once?" "Not that I recall." "Interesting. Because we have testimony from nursing home staff that you asked about her assets multiple times. That's not true." He slid a piece of paper across the table. A statement from a nurse claiming I'd asked about Dorothy's financial situation. I'd never met that nurse. I told him so. He just smiled. "Isn't it true, Miss Crawford, that you deliberately isolated your grandmother from the rest of the family?" "No. They didn't visit her. That's not my fault." "Didn't you tell your grandmother that her son and grandson were too busy to visit her? Didn't you make her feel abandoned?" "I never said that." She could see for herself that they didn't come. "So you admit you were the only family member she had consistent contact with?" "Yes, because I cared about her." "Or because you saw an opportunity?" I wanted to scream at him. Patricia put a warning hand on my arm. The deposition lasted 4 hours. By the end, I felt wrung out and dirty. They'd made it sound like I was a con artist who'd preyed on a vulnerable old woman. During a break, I had to use the restroom. In the hallway, I passed my family. My mother looked at me with pure hatred. Derek smirked. "You're going to lose," he mouthed silently. The emotional toll was crushing. I couldn't sleep. Lost weight. Couldn't concentrate. At work, I messed up orders, dropped plates, got yelled at by customers. One night I was working the late shift. It was nearly empty, just a few tables. Then Derek walked in with his wife and another couple. They saw me in my server uniform. I watched them laugh. Derek pointed me out to his companions, said something I couldn't hear. They all looked over and smirked. I had to serve them. Company policy. I walked to their table, order pad in hand, trying to keep my expression neutral. Well, Derek said loudly. Look at this. My sister, the waitress. What a fall from grace, his wife giggled. I thought you worked in marketing, Amberly. I did. What happened? Oh wait, I remember. You got fired. Something about being unstable, right? The couple with them looked uncomfortable. I stood there, forcing myself not to react. What can I get you? I asked quietly. Derek made a big show of ordering, sending things back, complaining about everything, drawing it out, humiliating me. His wife asked for fresh lemon slices, not the ones from the dispenser, fresh ones cut in front of her. I did it all, smiled, said yes sir, yes ma'am, brought their food, refilled their drinks. When they finally left, Derek left a penny as a tip. I went to the bathroom and threw up. Later that night, Patricia called with news. We found something. The investigator dug deeper into those medical records, claiming your grandmother had dementia. What did you find? They were altered. The cognitive test your family submitted as evidence? It was backdated. The doctor who supposedly evaluated your grandmother? He received a payment from your brother 3 days before the test was supposedly administered. Derek paid off a doctor? $50,000. Wire transfer. We have the bank records. So the medical evidence is fake? Completely fabricated. Your brother committed fraud. Can we use this? Oh, we're absolutely using this. This changes everything. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope. Patricia filed new motions immediately, presenting the evidence of fraud. The bank records showing Derek's payment to the doctor. The proof that the medical documents had been backdated and falsified. My family's response was to double down. They filed a counterclaim. Now they were accusing me of elder abuse, of coercing Dorothy into changing her will, of forging documents. The accusations were insane. But legally, I had to defend against them. Are they serious? I asked Patricia. They're claiming I forged the will. They're desperate. They know the fraud evidence makes them look terrible, so they're trying to muddy the waters, make it seem like everyone's lying. The case went to trial in March. I sat in the courtroom, my stomach in knots. Across the aisle sat my entire family. My mother, father, Derek, Callie. Extended family members filled the rows behind them. On my side, just Patricia and me. The trial lasted 3 days. My family's lawyer presented their case first. He painted me as a troubled, manipulative woman who'd taken advantage of a confused elderly woman. He called witnesses, family friends who testified that I'd always been difficult, demanding, money-hungry. One woman, someone I barely knew, claimed she'd seen me arguing with Dorothy at the nursing home. She was trying to force her grandmother to sign papers, the woman testified. It was a complete lie. I'd never argued with my grandmother, and I certainly never had papers for her to sign. But she said it under oath, and the jury listened. Another witness, a neighbor of Dorothy's from years ago, claimed I'd had a troubled childhood, that I'd always been jealous of Derek. The lies just kept coming. My family had spent months coaching people, building a narrative. Then Patricia presented our case. She called the private investigator, who testified about the forged medical records. He showed the jury the bank records proving Derek had paid the doctor $50,000. She called Dorothy's actual physician, Dr. Susan Marshall, who'd treated her for 15 years. Dr. Marshall testified that Dorothy had been mentally sharp until the day she died, that the cognitive test submitted by my family was fake, that she'd never evaluated Dorothy as having dementia. She showed the jury Dorothy's medical records from the nursing home. Clear documentation of her mental competency. Notes from staff about how articulate and aware she was. Then Patricia played a video. I didn't know this existed, she explained, but the nursing home keeps security footage. This is from 8 months ago when your grandmother met with her lawyer to change her will. The video showed Dorothy in a conference room with Mr. Franklin. She was clearly alert, answering his questions, explaining her decisions. Her voice was steady. "I want everything to go to Amberly," she said on the tape. "She's the only one who cares about me as a person. My son cares about my money. My grandson cares about his inheritance. But Amberly cares about me." The lawyer asked if she was certain, if she understood what she was doing. "I'm 87 years old, not senile," Dorothy said sharply. "I know exactly what I'm doing, and I know my family will fight this. But it's my money, and I earned it, and I'll leave it to whoever I damn well please." Several jury members smiled. Patricia called Dorothy's friends from the nursing home. They testified that I visited every single week, that Dorothy lit up when I arrived, that she'd often talked about how grateful she was to have one grandchild who truly cared. She called Dorothy's pastor, who confirmed that Dorothy had been completely lucid when she'd discussed her will with him months before she died. The evidence was overwhelming. Then Patricia read Dorothy's letter aloud in court. Every word. The jury sat in silence, listening. When she finished, some jury members were wiping their eyes. Finally, Patricia called her surprise witness, Callie Crawford, to the stand. I turned, shocked. My sister was supposed to be on my family's side. Callie walked to the witness stand. She looked terrified. She wouldn't look at our mother. Patricia asked her to state her name and relation to the case. Then she asked, "Did your family discuss plans to contest this will?" "Yes." "When did those discussions begin?" Callie's voice shook. "Before Grandma Dorothy even died." "Please explain." Callie took a deep breath. "My mother found out Grandma Dorothy was dying. The doctors said she had maybe a month. My mother was furious when she found out Grandma had changed her will months earlier. She'd left everything to Amberly." "How did your mother find this out?" "She'd been pressuring Grandma's lawyer to tell her what was in the will. He wouldn't, so she talked to one of the nurses, who'd overheard Grandma talking to Mr. Franklin on the phone." "What did your mother do with this information?" Callie's eyes filled with tears. "She came up with a plan. She said we needed to make Amberly look unstable and isolated. That way, if the will was read and Amberly got everything, we could contest it. We could claim Amberly had manipulated Grandma, that Grandma wasn't in her right mind, that Amberly had cut the family off from her." She looked at me for the first time. "I'm so sorry, Amberly." The courtroom was silent. Patricia continued. "Did your family deliberately exclude Amberly from Christmas?" "Yes. We were told to cut her off. Make her seem troubled. My mother told everyone Amberly was having mental health problems. She told Aunt Susan. She told the church ladies. She spread rumors." "Did your brother Derek contact Amberly's employer?" "Yes. He called her boss and said she was unstable. He wanted her to lose her job. He thought it would make her look less credible if the will was contested." "Why are you testifying about this now?" Callie wiped her eyes. "Because it's wrong. What we did to Amberly is wrong. I went along with it because I was scared. Scared Mom would cut me off, too. But I can't lie under oath. I can't be part of this anymore." My mother stood up in the gallery. "You ungrateful little witch. How dare you?" The judge banged her gavel. "Sit down, ma'am, or you'll be removed from this courtroom." My mother sat, her face red with rage. Patricia asked Callie more questions. "Did Derek pay a doctor to falsify medical records?" "Yes. I heard him and Dad talking about it. They said it was the only way to prove Grandma had dementia." "Did your family know Mrs. Crawford was dying when they told Amberly not to come for Christmas?" "Yes, we all knew. That's why the timing was planned that way. Mom said it would look better if Amberly had been estranged from the family for a while before Grandma died." "One final question. Do you believe your grandmother was mentally competent when she changed her will?" "Completely. Grandma knew exactly what she was doing. And she was right. We didn't deserve her money. Amberly did." The cross-examination was brutal. My family's lawyer tried to discredit Callie, suggesting she was lying to get a share of the inheritance herself. But Callie held firm. After Callie stepped down, my family tried to approach her. She walked out a side door, escorted by court security. Closing arguments happened the next day. Patricia was powerful. She laid out the evidence piece by piece. The forged documents. The paid-off doctor. The deliberate campaign to isolate and discredit me. The video evidence of Dorothy's competence. Her letter. The testimony of everyone who actually knew her. My family's lawyer tried to argue that I'd still manipulated an elderly woman, but his case had crumbled. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. When they came back, the forewoman stood. We find in favor of the defendant, Amberly Crawford. The will is valid and shall be executed as written. I collapsed into my chair, sobbing. Patricia squeezed my shoulder. But the judge wasn't done. Furthermore, she said, her voice cold, I am appalled by the conduct I've witnessed in this courtroom. The evidence clearly shows a deliberate conspiracy to defraud this court and deny Miss Crawford her rightful inheritance. I'm ordering the plaintiffs to pay all of Miss Crawford's legal fees. Additionally, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office for possible criminal prosecution for fraud and perjury. My father's face went white. Derek looked like he might be sick. The judge continued. The behavior of this family has been reprehensible. Mrs. Dorothy Crawford made her wishes clear. She had every right to leave her property to whomever she chose. The attempt to undermine her clearly stated intentions through lies and forged documents is unconscionable. She banged her gavel. Court dismissed. I walked out of that courthouse feeling like I could finally breathe. The weight that had been crushing me for months lifted. Patricia hugged me. It's over. You won. My family tried to approach me in the parking lot. My mother reached out. Amberly, please, can we just talk? I stopped walking and turned to face them. For the first time in months, I looked at them directly. You had every chance to love me. You chose cruelty instead. You chose money over your own daughter. Now you have neither me nor the money. My father stepped forward. We were trying to protect the family legacy. Your grandmother's money should have stayed in the family. I am family, Dad. Or I was. But you decided I wasn't good enough. You decided to destroy me rather than accept that Grandma loved me most. Derek sneered. You'll always be alone, Amberly. You have no family now. I smiled, though it hurt. I never really had you. But I have something better now. I have myself. And Grandma Dorothy gave me the freedom to build a real life. A life without people who only love me when I do what they want. My mother's face twisted. You're making a mistake. Family is everything. No, Mom. Love is everything. And you never loved me. You loved the idea of controlling me. I walked away. This time, they didn't follow. The next weeks were a blur of paperwork and legal proceedings. The inheritance was released. $3.2 million transferred into my accounts. The house became mine. Derek and the doctor he'd bribed were charged with fraud. Both faced criminal trials. I didn't attend. I didn't need to see them anymore. I moved into Dorothy's house. It was a beautiful old craftsman, with a wraparound porch and a garden that needed tending. I spent days going through her belongings, finding pieces of her life, photo albums from the 1950s, her wedding dress, letters from my grandfather, who'd died before I was born, paintings she'd done as a young woman. I hadn't known she was an artist. In the attic, I found dozens of canvases. Landscapes. Portraits. Still lifes. They were beautiful. I decided what to do with part of the money. I established an art scholarship at the local community college in Dorothy's name, for students who couldn't afford supplies or tuition, students like Dorothy had been, growing up poor during the Depression. I quit the restaurant job. I took time to figure out what I actually wanted to do with my life. I started volunteering at the nursing home where Dorothy had lived. I'd visit residents who didn't have family. I'd sit with them, listen to their stories, make sure they knew someone cared. I realized this was my calling. Helping people. Being there for those who felt forgotten. I enrolled in a social work program at the university. I wanted to work with elderly people. I wanted to help families navigate end-of-life care. I wanted to make sure no one else felt as alone as Dorothy must have felt, seeing her family only twice a year. I made friends, real friends, people who liked me for who I was, not what I could do for them. We had dinners, went to movies, celebrated birthdays. My phone still buzzed occasionally with messages from my parents. I never responded. I'd blocked Derek months ago. My father sent emails begging me to reconsider, to give them another chance. I deleted them without reading. One day, 6 months after the trial, my phone rang. Callie. I hesitated, then answered. Amberly? Her voice was small. Hey, Callie. I know I don't have the right to call, but I wanted you to know I left. I moved out of Mom and Dad's. I got my own apartment. And I'm in therapy. Good. I'm glad. I'm so sorry. For everything. I was a coward. I let them convince me that what we were doing was okay. Why did you testify? Why did you finally tell the truth? She was quiet for a moment. Because I couldn't live with myself. I was sitting in that courtroom listening to all those lies, and I realized I was as bad as them. Worse. Maybe. Because I knew the truth and I stayed silent for so long. What you did took courage. It took too long. I should have saved you months earlier. But you weren't a coward when it mattered most. That counts for something. Can we? Would you ever want to get coffee? Sometime? I thought about it. Maybe. Someday. But I need time, Callie. What happened? It damaged me. I need to heal. I understand. I'll wait. However long it takes. We hung up. I didn't know if I'd ever truly forgive her, but I appreciated that she'd tried to make it right. A year passed. I finished my first year of social work school. I spent holidays with friends. I dated occasionally, but nothing serious. I was learning to be okay alone. The house became my sanctuary. I painted the rooms, tended Dorothy's garden, hung her artwork on the walls. I held a small gathering one evening. Callie came, tentatively. We were rebuilding our relationship slowly. Friends from school. People from the nursing home. The lawyer, Mr. Franklin, who'd become a friend. I raised a glass. To Dorothy Crawford, who taught me that family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who see you, value you, and love you for exactly who you are. Everyone toasted. I looked at Dorothy's photo on the mantel, her eyes twinkling even in the old photograph. Thank you, Grandma, I whispered. I'd been rejected by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. They'd tried to destroy me. But their cruelty had freed me from a toxic system. The inheritance wasn't the real gift. The real gift was discovering I was stronger than I ever knew. That I was worthy of real love, not conditional approval. My family had tried to erase me. Instead, they lost everything, and I found myself. 2 years after that phone call from Mr. Franklin, my life looked completely different. I'd graduated with my social work degree and started working at a nonprofit that helped elderly people navigate housing, healthcare, and family issues. The work was hard but meaningful. I still lived in Dorothy's house, our house now. I'd made it mine while honoring her memory. Her paintings hung in every room. The garden bloomed with the roses she'd planted decades ago. I kept volunteering at the nursing home. One of my regular visits was with a woman named Margaret, 93 years old, who hadn't had a visitor in 2 years. We'd become close. I brought her books from the library and sat with her during meals. She reminds me of you, another volunteer said once, nodding toward Margaret. You have the same kindness in your eyes. Callie and I had rebuilt something resembling a relationship. It would never be what it was before. Too much had happened. But we met for coffee once a month. She was seeing a therapist and working through her own guilt and trauma from our family. I haven't spoken to them in over a year, she told me during one of our meetings. Mom calls constantly. Dad sends letters. I don't respond. I can't be around them anymore. Not after what they did to you. What they made me part of. How do you feel about that? Sad. But also free. Does that make sense? It made perfect sense. I never heard from my parents or Derek directly anymore. The restraining order had expired, but they seemed to understand I wanted nothing to do with them. Every few months, I'd get a message. Please, Amberly, we're family. Can't we move past this? I deleted them without responding. Derek had been convicted of fraud. He served 6 months in jail and was on probation. He'd lost his job in finance. The last I heard, he was working as a car salesman and his wife had filed for divorce. My parents had become pariahs in their social circle once the details of the trial became public. People knew what they'd done. How they'd lied, manipulated, tried to steal from their own daughter. I didn't take pleasure in their downfall. Mostly, I just felt sad. Sad that they'd chosen greed over love. sad that they'd destroyed our family for money they'd never deserved. On the second anniversary of Dorothy's death, I held a small memorial at her grave. Just me, Callie, Mr. Franklin, and a few of Dorothy's old friends from the nursing home who were still alive. I brought flowers, yellow roses, her favorite. "Thank you for seeing me," I said quietly, kneeling by her headstone. "Thank you for believing I was worth saving. You gave me more than money, Grandma. You gave me proof that I was lovable, that I mattered." The scholarship I'd established in her name had helped 12 students so far, young artists who couldn't afford supplies or tuition. I'd met several of them, seen their work. Dorothy would have been proud. I'd used some of the inheritance to pay off my student loans, buy a reliable car, and secure my future. But most of it sat invested, growing, waiting for when I'd need it or find the right way to use it for good. I lived modestly. The house was paid off. My job paid enough for daily expenses. I didn't need much. Money, I'd learned, wasn't what made life worth living. One evening, I was sitting on Dorothy's porch, watching the sunset, when my phone buzzed. Another message from my mother. "Please, Amberly, I'm begging you. Your father is sick. He's having heart problems. Don't you think this has gone on long enough? He wants to see you before. Please, don't let him die with this between you." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me felt guilty. He was my father. He was sick. Shouldn't I forgive him? But then I remembered. Remembered him calling me selfish. Remembered him supporting my mother's plan to destroy my reputation. Remembered him showing up at my apartment to threaten me. Remembered him sitting in that courtroom while his lawyer called me a con artist. He'd had 2 years to apologize, to reach out with genuine remorse. Instead, it took a health scare to make him want reconciliation. I put the phone down without responding. Forgiveness wasn't something I owed anyone, especially people who'd never truly apologized or changed. My therapist, who I'd been seeing since the trial, had helped me understand this. "You don't have to forgive people who aren't sorry," she'd said. "You don't have to maintain relationships with people who hurt you just because they're family. You get to protect yourself." And I was protecting myself. Finally, life moved forward. I met someone. His name was Thomas, and he was a teacher at an elementary school. We met at a community volunteer event. He was patient, kind, and had no interest in my money. He didn't even know about the inheritance until we'd been dating for 3 months. When I finally told him, he'd simply said, "That must have been hard. I'm sorry your family put you through that." Not, "Wow, you're rich." Not, "Can you help me with?" Just compassion for what I'd endured. We took things slow. I was careful. I'd learned that not everyone who claimed to love you actually did. But Thomas was different. He proved it through consistent actions, not just words. On what would have been Dorothy's 90th birthday, I hosted a dinner party. Thomas was there. Callie. Friends from work and school. Mr. Franklin. Margaret from the nursing home, who I'd arranged transportation for. We ate, laughed, shared stories. The house felt alive again. Full of real family. Chosen family. I stood to make a toast. To Dorothy Crawford. She taught me that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you opens the door to your best life. She taught me that blood doesn't make family. Love does. And she taught me that I was always worthy, even when the people who should have loved me couldn't see it. Everyone raised their glasses. After dinner, I sat with Margaret on the porch. She held my hand with her papery, thin fingers. "You've built a good life," she said. "Your grandmother would be proud." "I hope so." She squeezed my hand. "You know what I've learned in 93 years? The people who truly love you don't make you earn it. They don't take it away when you displease them. Real love is steady, unconditional, and you're surrounded by it now." I looked around at the people in my home, the laughter floating through the windows, the warmth and acceptance. She was right. My phone buzzed again. My mother. Still trying, still demanding access to my life. I deleted the message and turned off my phone. I was done looking back. Done waiting for people who would never change to suddenly become who I needed them to be. I had everything I needed right here. A home. A purpose. People who genuinely cared about me. And most importantly, I had myself. Whole. Healed. Free. The woman who'd been told not to come for Christmas, who'd been erased and discarded, no longer existed. In her place was someone stronger. Someone who knew her worth. Someone who'd learned that sometimes the greatest gift is being released from people who never deserved you in the first place. Dorothy had given me more than an inheritance. She'd given me permission to choose myself, to walk away from toxicity, to build a life based on authenticity and real connection. And I'd taken that gift and built something beautiful. As the evening grew darker and the stars came out, I thought about that phone call 2 years ago. The one that had seemed like the end of my world. It had been the beginning instead. Sometimes we have to lose everything to discover what actually matters. Sometimes the people who abandon us are doing us a favor, even if it doesn't feel like it at the time. My family had tried to destroy me. Instead, they'd set me free, and I'd never been happier. So, here's my question for you. Have you ever had to walk away from family or people you loved because they were toxic? How did you find the strength to choose yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your story. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and know they're not alone in their struggles. Subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories about overcoming hardship and finding strength. And please share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Someone who's struggling with family expectations or manipulation. Let them know they're not alone. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it brought you some comfort, or maybe helped you see your own situation more clearly. Remember, you are worthy of real love. You don't have to earn it, and you don't have to accept crumbs from people who should be giving you the whole cake. Choose yourself. Choose peace. Choose freedom. You deserve it. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next story.